Hello everyone, welcome to The Right Stuff. I'm Tess Humphrey. I'm the resident writer here at Grand Dame Theatre, and thank you for joining me. The setup of this video isn't going to be very jazzy because I'm sick. And so I was thinking about what kind of video I could do while I was sick, a stationary one primarily, and it got me to thinking about our longevity as writers, cheerfully enough. Today is Shakespeare's 400th birthday, or it would be if he didn't die when he was 52. A few days ago was also Charlotte Bronte's 200th birthday, and it's a funny thing when I think about it, how recent both those numbers seem. I mean, if I just took my inherent impression of Shakespeare, I'd think that he'd recorded about half of human life in its entirety. I would say that, you know, there was half of humanity, and then there was Shakespeare, and then there was the other half of humanity up till now. So it doesn't seem like 400 years to me, and in a way it makes you think about the mortality of ideas. You know, at what point an idea goes off. Like, is a love story, say, always a love story, or do our ideas change so much societally that one day a good love story is no longer? And I also think that when I'm reading the Brontes, I think I love the stories, but some of them rely on shock tactics that aren't shock tactics anymore, like say The Tenant of Wildfell Hall is about a woman leaving her husband, which is very bold and daring in the day, and is, you know, not really an action-packed plot anymore. And I also think about the way in which the language is inaccessible for a lot of modern readers. And I know that's heresy, but it worries me that in the next 50 or 100 years the Brontes could die out and we'll lose a huge part of our cultural heritage. I mean, other things will come to replace it, but imagine a world where no one knew what Wuthering Heights was. Imagine a world where no one knew what Midsummer Night's Dream was, no one knew what Hamlet was. And it will happen someday. Only about 6% of human history is recorded, that being that humans have lived for about 100,000 years, we think, and written records seem to start around the ancient Egyptian era, meaning that 94% of human history is gone. We don't know what it was. And when you think of all the fantastic stories we must have lost in that time. The director of Grand Dame, Sam Hart, he said to me a while ago, he said, "It must be difficult as a writer knowing that you won't be discovered until after you're dead." And I thought, yeah, I suppose that's quite difficult. It's difficult to suppose that your friends and family, and particularly your enemies, will never know that you're successful. But I think the idea of dying out is worse. If you're a famous writer in your day, the idea of knowing that you will be forgotten must be really, really haunting. I once wrote a book where a woman meets the ghosts of a lot of famous writers, and the Bronte sisters included, actually, and they talk about the forgetters, which are these mysterious spirits that come and sweep up humanity. They come and sweep up all the old words that don't mean anything anymore, and they do it to make room for new things to be created, but that means that the ghosts of the writers will disappear when their words are forgotten. And it's something that kind of keeps most artists up at night, I would imagine. For humans in general, I suppose it's difficult to realise that we're not the centre of anyone's universe except our own, and that, you know, we live an entire human experience, and we we take the world into ourselves and it just vanishes when we die. That's a difficult concept. But I think there is something really pertinent about other people forgetting you, and your art is you. Why am I sitting like this, you might wonder? It's because I am not well enough to hold myself up. I might well die before I get anything great done with my life, and that's very difficult to think about. Primarily the fact that other people who work less hard and who have fewer ideas might outstrip me just because nature is kinder to them. I try to tell myself that none of the Brontes lived very long at all, but do you know, Christopher Marlowe died when he was 26, and at that time he was considered as good as or better than Shakespeare, but Shakespeare lived twice as long, lived to be 52, and it might well have been Christopher Marlowe that was the bard, if that had not been the case, if it had been the other way around. And yeah, I do worry about whether I will make it long enough to make it anywhere. This week, little Prince George sat for a stamp to commemorate his great-grandma, the Queen's birthday, and I think that is quite a galling prospect to a lot of ordinary people, the fact that a baby who's never really done anything for anyone is already on a stamp. I mean, why aren't I on a stamp? I contribute to the zeitgeist. And I think art is this strange divergence between the way in which all humans think they're the centre of the universe and the way in which all humans have to realise they're not the centre of the universe. I think writing a story, it's the practice of making something small into the entire world for the time that you're sitting there watching the play or reading the book. Get this tiny little human experience and make it into the whole world. Apparently when Gandhi would worry about the effectiveness of what he was doing, he would remind himself that everyone fails in the end. And I suppose that's all you can think about anything, is to think that no matter where you end up, everyone else ends up there too. The more narrow-minded the people around you are, I think, makes it harder. I think if you've got friends who are very ambitious and always racing for the pinnacle of perfection on the horizon, I think it will be a lot more difficult for you to opt out of that race and say, no, I'm going to do success by my own measures. I'm going to make myself happy and productive and not just chase a shallow notion of success. So my advice for dealing with your problems, with your longevity as a writer or an artist, are to get rid of shitty friends. That's good advice in general, but the more that you measure yourself against other people, which is what you're doing if you've got shitty competitive friends, which a lot of people in the arts do, the more that you're going to feel that you fall up short, the more you're going to sit looking at their Facebooks and thinking, oh, they took that wonderful picture of themselves, they're so happy, I'm so terrible. I would say the secret to any kind of artistic happiness is to not compare yourself to other people, to revel in your achievements. By the way, I have 4 plays on this summer. And to never run the artistic race for anyone else. Both Shakespeare and Charlotte Bronte just wrote to make money. They were jobbing writers in the actual, literal sense. And there's nothing wrong with that. It got the job done for them. Someone once came to give a lecture at my college and he said that good writing is like masturbation. I don't know if that's true, but it definitely stuck with me. So feel free to leave me a comment or give me a share. And on the off chance that this website has survived hundreds of years, you might want to consider that I look really good in profile, and that might look good on some adhesive substance. Just saying it out there. Bye, thanks for watching.